Thanks, Harold. On behalf of Steve and Alex Cohen and the entire Mets organization, and to Jerry, his family, teammates, and other special guests, welcome home and congratulations on the retirement of your number 36.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
You had an 18-year Major League career, but we're here to celebrate those 12 years with the Mets. You're joining a very select circle of those whose numbers have been retired, and really joining only two other players, Tom Seaver and Mike Piazza, whose numbers have retired. There's good reason for your number retirement and this celebration today. You were with the Mets for 12 years. You were signed out of the Army, having pitched at Fort Bliss in Texas. But during your career, you ranked second in games started, second in complete games, innings pitched, shutouts, third in strikeouts, and an ERA with the Mets of 3.09. In 1969, you had an ERA of 2.28, that miracle season, with 180 strikeouts. And in 73, you set a record of 31 2/3 scoreless innings, which stood as a Mets record for just about 40 years. So, Jerry, congratulations. We're very pleased that you're here today. We want to congratulate your family as well. But welcome home, and we look forward in a few minutes to officially retiring that number 36. Congrats.
Well, thank you very much. You brought up a lot of things I'd forgotten about, so it's kind of interesting to hear them again.
There you go.
Good. Well, thank you, Sandy, and thank you, Jerry. We're going to jump right into our Q&A session, as a number of our visitors have their hands raised. And your first question, Jerry, will come from Bruce Beck.
Jerry, congratulations. What did this franchise mean to you then, and what does it mean to you now?
Never had that question before. Then, coming out of the Army, signing with the Mets, it was a huge deal. I'd never seen a big league game, and now all of a sudden I was playing pro ball. And it went fairly quick. I played in Greenville, South Carolina in 65, the last 2 weeks in Williamsport. The next year in Auburn, and next year was in Tom Seaver and I made the big club together. But that's when we went north of 28 guys, and after a month they cut 3. So Ralph Terry, myself, and Greg Koosman were cut. I went to AAA, played the season down there, came back up the last month, and stayed in New York the rest of the time, and I loved it. There's a great organization, and we had a lot of competition. We had about 100 guys that could throw 100 miles an hour, and so yeah, it was pretty strong in pitching at one time. Yep.
Thank you, Jerry. Your next question will come from Justin Toscano.
Hey, Jerry, I know it's had a little bit to sink in since they told you your number would be retired, but now that the day is actually here, how would you describe your emotions?
Well, I'm humbly thankful that they thought that much of me to retire my number. I know I'm joining a great crew that's already had their numbers retired. I don't know that I deserve it, but I guess we're gonna get on with it.
And then of the many memories and stories you made throughout your time here, which are the fondest?
Well, I'd have to say the big games were like the 69 World Series, getting in the World Series again in 73, although I think we should have won it. We didn't. But gosh, there's so many things. The night the cat came out of when we're playing the Cubs that will stick with me for quite a while. But I don't know, there's just somebody brings up a subject and you think of something. And so yeah, there's 1,000 memories.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Jerry, next up will be Bill Ladson. Bill, your line's open.
Congratulations, Jerry. I want to talk about 1976. That was your best year, and you won 20 games. Could you talk about that year and why was it so successful for you?
That year started mainly in spring training. I was pitching a game in West Palm Beach, and I was going to be pitching there. And right before the game, we got a phone call that my dad had a heart attack. And so, yeah, your mind's going 1,000 miles an hour in every different direction. I went out there and I couldn't even think. I don't even know if I finished the first inning. And they took me out and we drove back to St. Petersburg. And I was concerned about my dad. Well, he had 7 more heart attacks and finally passed away down there. And so I started the season off mainly first going to his funeral back home in Minnesota and then joining the ball club. And it felt like his presence or spirit was on my shoulder every game, every pitch. And my concentration had never been better. So that's the main thing about 1976. He had good stuff. I had great mechanics. I was very consistent. And it was just a wonderful year for baseball, not for losing your dad, but for at least my personal performance was good.
Also, the next year you lost 20 games, and could you tell me what was that like?
That was the most painful year I ever had. My chest hurt. No one likes to lose, and especially me. And we just weren't scoring any runs. We didn't have the Mike Piazzas on our club at that time. We had more, we were in a rebuilding situation, and we had a lot of AA players. And we just couldn't compete. Opposing runners are going from first to third and second home, just no question about it. But yeah, we just didn't have a competitive club.
Thank you.
Rich Catino, your line is open.
Jerry, congratulations. When you look at what the postseason teams you guys played in 69, 73, they had some lineups that were filled with future Hall of Famers, whether you talk about the Braves, Orioles, A's, or the Reds. You guys pretty much dominated them in those series in terms of pitching against them. What was the mindset, and what do you remember about those series?
Well, we went into those games really respecting them and their ability to score runs. And just overall, they were excellent ball clubs. But there's the old saying, good pitching gets out good hitting. And so that's what happened then. Our pitching kind of took over. And not so much in every game, like when we were playing Atlanta. I mean, God, it was a high-scoring game, that one game I remember. But and we had, both clubs had good pitching, and they had great hitting. But yeah, you just don't know what to expect. You prepare to do your best, and if everybody does their job, you come out on top.
And what was it like to play for Gil Hodges?
Well, I'd say he was probably the best manager I ever had. I had some good ones, but he was the best. He was always seemed 2-3 steps ahead of the opposing manager. And if somebody was going to pinch hit in an inning or two, he told that guy now. So he'd have an inning or two to get ready and prepare himself to go up there and hit. He didn't just say, hey, Garrett, grab a bat and go out and hit. No, he was so far ahead in his planning all the time and he never let a player get in a position they couldn't handle. He knew his players' talents very well, and he made us look great.
And one final one for me, Jerry. You were 9.5 games back of the Astros in 69 in mid-August, and I think you won the division by 10 games. So you made up 20 games in the standings in a month and a half. How'd you guys do that against a good Cub team?
Oh, yeah, you said the Astros. You meant the Cubs,
I
right?
meant the Cubs. I'm sorry. Yeah.
What was the question? How did we make
You
it
were,
up?
you were 9.5 out on
Yeah.
the 17th, and you won the division by double digits. So you made up 20 games in the standings in about 5 or 6 weeks.
Right. The thing I remember the most was it was a hot summer, and long about the 1st of September, we felt that cool breeze, that drier air kind of blow in, and that gives the pitcher a second wind. Those dog days of summer, we call them, and then when you can get by them, it just, yeah, you feel like you're rejuvenated. And so those cooler days came around. Our pitching got better. We were refreshed, and it showed. I mean, we dominated in pitching that last month, big time. I think I was told that Seaver and I won 18 of our last 19 games, and I was wondering how Seaver lost that 19th game or whatever it was.
Thank you for that, Jerry. Your next question will come from Jerry Beach.
Hey, Jerry, congrats. A couple quick questions. I wonder what it's like for you coming back here, and when you drive in the area, the Shays across the street, obviously. What's it like, those memories come flooding back? I know you talked about your most vivid memories, but what's it like being in the area where all those memories were created?
Well, it's great. It just a lot of things pop up, different memories. You see something and you have a relating story. And so there's a lot of those, no matter where you go, if you're in Manhattan or Queens or here at the ballpark, just a lot of good memories. And if you play here long enough, you're going to have a lot of memories.
And as everybody knows, you were traded for Jesse Orosco, and of course, he's the only other man in Mets history to get the last out of a World Series. I wondered if you guys have ever connected, ever been able to talk, ever been able to communicate. Like, you're in the most exclusive of clubs there. Has there ever been a chance to communicate with him?
We did. We not long conversations because we met maybe here on the field or an appearance someplace. But we did get to chat and get to know each other a little bit. And I was very proud of him holding up our left-handed reputation. And he did a great job. He played a long time. And our energy kind of was extended, and I was proud to be part of it.
And lastly, about how many family members and friends do you have with you tonight watching this?
Yeah, there's 11 of us, counting myself, in my immediate family. I have 2 sons and a daughter, and they're all married, and I have 4 grandkids.
Thank you.
Next question is going to come from Ed Randall. Go ahead, Ed.
So much.
I know him.
Jerry, I'm so happy to talk to you. Thank you for all your kindnesses to me through the years. I got a book that was written by Red Murph, the scout who signed you. I got the book just yesterday, so help me God. And I was reading it this morning, and there was a story about how after your Army service and you were in the Mets organization, that there were some discipline problems apparently, and that the way Red Murph wrote it, that they were going to release you, but they didn't want to release you because you owed the team money. Is that a true story?
Well, there's really 2 stories there, I think. First of all, it wasn't a disciplinary problem. Jerry Johnson, Jerry Wild, and myself were leaving Atlanta to go to spring training. And so Jerry Wild was driving the first leg of the trip because he is from that area. Well, he partially ran a red light in Macon, Georgia. We got broadsided and my car got totaled out. So now we had no way to get to a spring training. We didn't have any money. So we looked at who had the best record that year, and they voted that I did. I was 7-11, I believe my win and loss record was. And so they voted that I give Joe McDonald a call, and we needed $50 for the three of us to get a bus down to Homestead, Florida. So he wired the money. Well, in the meantime, I talked to my dad. My dad wanted me to get another car. So I bought another car in the meantime, and we went to spring training. But now, while I'm down there, Frank Leary was our minor league pitching coach at the time, the Yankee killer. And he taught me the slider, and I had a good one, excellent one. And so when it come time, they had to start cutting players and releasing them. They came to me, and Frank Leary says, "No, you can't release him. I just taught him the slider, and it's probably the best sliders I've ever seen." And Joe McDonald said, "Yeah, you can't release him because he owes me $50." So you can believe whichever story you want. There's two of them.
That's great. Jerry, congratulations. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Jerry, next up will be Tim Healy.
Hey, Jerry, quick question for you, and then I have an on-theme question for Sandy if he's there. What's the story behind you pranking Seaver, telling him he was getting traded to the Astros?
Oh, that was fun. I had in the back of a magazine, there's all these ads, and there was a ad in there for a listening device. And I was a gadget type guy, so I sent for it. And it was one little thing about an inch long with about 1.5 foot rubber antenna on it. And you could tune it into like 27.3 on your FM radio, and it would work, you know. It was a mic, and it'd come over the radio. So I came up with this trade that I thought would really be good. So I got Jack Simon. He was a WOR TV director at the time, and he could do a perfect imitation of Howard Cosell. We had more fun with him doing that. So anyway, I come up with this trade, and I said the time we got to do it is right after batting practice when everybody's in the clubhouse. So I had Jack there. We put him in the doctor's room, and said, "Okay, I'm a count. We'll do a slow countdown from 10 to 0. And I said, "That gives me time to get out there." Seaver had an FM radio above his locker. It's the only radio he had in the clubhouse. So he's there talking to Don Grant in front of his locker. I get up on the stool. I turn the volume down, and I tune it into the 27.3 or whatever frequency it was. And I turned the volume up enough where I could hear him going 4, 3, 2. Well, I said, once you hit 0, give me about 5 seconds to get away from there, you know. So I turned the volume up, and I head out of there, and I go stand by the trainer's room, and then here he comes on. He said, "Hello, everybody. This is Howard Cosell with an NBC Sports Bulletin. The New York Mets have just announced a major trade today, trading Tom Seaver, right-handed pitcher Tom Seaver, and Ed Kranepool to Houston for third baseman Doug Rader and left-handed pitcher Ed Konesky." Now, Ed Konesky, I don't think he ever got us out. We just roped him all over the place. And Doug Rader, we had that fight with him down there, and they had come up here, and the fans just booed and booed him. They hated Doug Rader. Well, and then he ends it by saying, "And now return you to your regular broadcasting stations." Well, Seaver just went white. And Don Grant heard it, said, "What station was that?" And he goes running out of the clubhouse. And I go up to Seaver to hold my hand out to shake his hand, and he just kind of standing there, you know, like you'd seen a ghost. And I kept my hand out there, and finally he raised his, and he just gave me that little dead fish 2-finger shake, you know. And I told him, I said, "I can't believe the Mets would do this. You know, trade you away and I said, for Rader on top of it, you know." And he just couldn't talk. He was stunned. And so I said, "Oh God," the clubhouse was going nuts. Kranepool was breaking bats in his locker. So I went in Doc's office. I got a hold of Jack Simon. I said, "Hey, better get the hell out of here and don't tell nobody, because they're going to hang both of us if they find out." Well, that's what we did. We never said a word to nobody. Nobody knew what happened. It just kind of healed over. Well, then later, Seaver gets traded a couple years later. He gets traded to Cincinnati. They come to New York here, and so it ends up we're pitching against each other. Well, he beats me in the first game 4-1 and hit a double off me. Next game, I beat him 4-1, and I got a double off of him. But anyway, after the first game, they asked Kiner wanted Seaver and me in on his Kiner's Corner post-game show. So Kiner's sitting here to my left, then me, and then Seaver to my right. And Kiner asked me to tell this story. So I tell the story. And now Seaver's hearing it for the first time. And and there's monitors there in the room. And so he gets as close to my ear as he could without being seen on TV. And he just started cussing me out. Yeah, I love that stuff.
That's incredible. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Jerry. And for Sandy, as an organization, how much do you guys want to do more stuff like this, number of retirements and whatnot, bringing back some of the best the franchise has ever had?
I think that, Steve and Alex and the organization, myself, are committed to celebrating our history. It's a storied franchise. Some people would say iconic, and it's only that way because of the history that we have and the players who've created that history. And, Jerry is among the foremost who've done that. So, baseball's a game of history. And, we not only from a statistical standpoint, but also from a personality standpoint. And, it's important that we recognize our history and, to some extent, educate current fans as to what took place years and years ago.
Thank you.
Next up for Jerry will be Greg Prince.
There you go.
Greg, your line is open.
Hey, Jerry, congratulations tonight. I was wondering what difference it made to you, all those times where you got to pitch in front of a full house when there was a lot of excitement in the stands, as opposed to just a kind of a random Tuesday night in a season that wasn't going so well. How much did you feed off of that?
I thought it was great. The pitching in a packed stadium just shows there's a lot of interest in their game, and they're rooting for you. It must be an important game. They're all out there. They make you feel important. They make you do your best. When you have that many fans in the stands, it's like having a 10th player on the field. You get a little more adrenaline rush, and you don't want to screw up. You want to win for them.
And were there particular pitchers you really enjoyed going up against? I know you threw to the hitters, obviously, but was there a pitcher or two along the way where you said, I really want to beat this guy?
I've hit so many home runs I can't recall them all. One was off of John the Count Montefusco, and the other was off of Bill Hand. So I'm about 450 or so behind Mike Piazza. So the pitchers I like pitching against the most were the ones we scored a lot of runs off of.
Thank you, Jerry. Next up will be Zach Brasler.
Jerry, what's it like to have your number, right there with Tom, and obviously you guys were great pitching teammates together and friends, and just kind of, is it a little bittersweet that he's obviously not able to be here, for this night?
Well, it's all the emotions, excitement. It's a humbling feeling. I don't know that I deserve it, but to be up there with these other greats is it's quite a feather in your cap.
And finally, Bill, we're going to come back to your line. I believe your hand's still up. Go ahead.
You played for New York for 12 years. What was it like to live in New York, and how much fun did you have in the city?
Well, when we first came here, as Tom and Nancy and Levana and myself, the two couples, we're the rookies on the club, and we come to New York. fly in. We stayed in a hotel, and the next day we jump in a car. Somehow we had the car shipped up, I guess. But next day, Severs and us jumped in a car and we started driving around Queens looking for a place to live. And I mean, I remember we're in one area there where the apartment complexes are about 20, 30 stories high, and we're standing there or driving around looking at all these, and we just said, nah, this ain't for us. And so we struck out that day, and we came to the ballpark, and here they had a bulletin board with a whole bunch of leads on it for renting a house or apartment or whatever. So that was our first experience in New York. We were shocked, but the longer we're here, the more we got used to it, the more we thrived on it. And if you're going to play in the big leagues, we've learned that playing in New York is the best place to play.
You still grow tomatoes?
I didn't grow the tomatoes. That was Joe Pignatano that had the tomato plants out there in the bullpen. But we all assisted. You know, took our turn and watered them, or maybe stealing one.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. And Greg, back to you for our final question.
Thank you. I was just curious, Jerry. Toward the end of your career, you came back and pitched against the Mets at Shea Stadium a few times. Most of the guys you played with were gone. I think Rusty was still there. I'm just curious how strange it might have been to come back here as an opponent, dress in the visitors' clubhouse, and wear a uniform other than the Mets.
Well, it is strange. I remember when Seaver was traded, we said we were going to try to make some bets to see if he'd remember which way to walk to the dugout after he got the side out. And it kind of felt that way with me too. I wanted to make sure I didn't walk the wrong way. But I'll never forget the first game back here against the Mets. I'm pitching against Gooden. It's about 100 degrees out that day, and you could cut the humidity with a knife. Well, I threw about 10 pitches in the bullpen, and I was ready for the start of the game. But anyway, Gooden got us out the first inning. I got him out the bottom of the first. We each got him out. In the third inning, I had 2 outs, and I jammed a guy, hit a broken bat, semi-line drive to the first baseman, and Mike Schmidt was playing first base that particular day versus playing third. Well, all he had to do was take one step in and catch the ball, but he backpedaled and took it on the first hop. Well, I'm a step or two late to cover first base, and it's a bang-bang play, and the runner's safe. Well, I never got another guy out. I was winded. I couldn't get my breath. There was no oxygen in the air. And so I was done. The next thing, the same thing happened to Gooden. He couldn't breathe no more. He was done. And I remember Juan Samuel hit a triple that day, and the next player got a base hit. He didn't even leave third. He just stayed there. He couldn't score. He couldn't breathe. Ozzie Virgil fell over twice on me that day. It was hot.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Well,
It was so hot. It was so hot. I saw a dog chasing the cat, and they were both walking.